is Bill Hartman. I protested Trident many years ago, and at this hour, 74 years ago, Hiroshima was burning. 80,000 people were killed at this hour. 5 minutes ago, our time, at 8:15 in the morning in Hiroshima, they dropped the bomb from the plane, Enola Gay, onto the folks of Hiroshima. Men, women, and children, eviscerated, gone, evaporated from their landscape where they were. More than 80,000 killed instantly. And those people just wanted to live. They weren't war fighters. They weren't out trying to hurt anyone. But we destroyed them, and we created a whole new reality in this world of ours where we can basically incinerate in a moment's notice all of life. Now, the bombs that are carried on submarines inside of this base where we stand now on the Trident, the D5 missiles that sit on these submarines at Kings Bay, all have the potential to destroy hundreds of cities. One submarine has, with fully loaded, can destroy something like 400 cities from one submarine. And we have something close to 12 to 14 active submarines now who have that capability. Trident means the end of the world. It is a robbery up from the poor for the use of funds to create these submarines, which cost over $2 billion each to make. Each missile, the D5 missile, is probably at a cost of $40 or $50 million per missile. And it is a sin against humanity, a sin against life, a sin against all life, the planet, the trees, the animals that crawl, the fish that swim. It is a sin against that living soul of our earth, not alone human beings. We are the most ignorant of all the creatures because we are set to destroy it instead of protect it and live for it. That's why we are here today to vigil on Hiroshima Day, to remember our friends from the Kings Bay Ploughshare, who are, some of them who are locked up for now 18 months in a county prison waiting a trial. And we stand with them, we glory in who they are and their willingness to risk all for the sake of the planet and their grandchildren and my grandchildren and my children's children's grandchildren. It goes back many years. Thank you for listening to my voice. I hope you will join us in the years to come here, that we have a years to come here, but join us here at Kings Bay. Thank you.
Good morning, I'm Bob Alberts from St. Charles, Illinois, and I have a reading for you here. At the same instant, birds ignited in midair. Mosquitoes and flies, squirrels, family pets crackled and were gone. The fireball flashed an enormous photograph of the city at the instant of its immolation, fixed on the mineral, vegetable, and animal surfaces of the city itself. A spiral ladder left its shadow and unburned paint on the surface of a steel storage tank. Leaves shielded reverse silhouettes on charred telephone poles. The black brush calligraphy burned out of a rice paper name card posted on a school building door. The dark flowers burned out of a schoolgirl's light blouse. A human being left a memorial of his outline in unspalled granite on the steps of a bank. Another, pulling a hand cart, protected a hand cart and human-shaped surface of asphalt from boiling. Farther away, in the suburbs, the flash-induced dark, sunburn-like pigmentation sharply shadowed deep in human skin, streaking the shape of an exposed nose or ear or hand, raised in gesture onto the faces and bodies of startled citizens. The Mask of Hiroshima. Lebo and his colleagues came to call that pigmentation. They found it persisting, unfaded 5 months after the event.
Libby Johnson from Durham, North Carolina, on support team with Eric for the Kings Bay Ploughshares Peace Action. Reading from the Remembrance and Hope readings that are read every year at Oak Ridge, the Y-12 reservation that made the bomb that dropped on Hiroshima 74 years ago. One of the readings, General Dwight Eisenhower spoke of the decision to use the bomb. During Secretary Stimson's recitation of the relevant facts, I had been conscious of a feeling of depression, and so I voiced to him my grave misgivings. First, on the basis of my belief that Japan was already defeated and that dropping the bomb was completely unnecessary. And secondly, because I thought that our country should avoid shocking world opinion by the use of a weapon whose employment was, I thought, no longer mandatory as a measure to save American lives. It was my belief that Japan was, at that very moment, seeking some way to surrender with a minimum loss of face. The Secretary was deeply perturbed by my attitude. Close quote.
Yes, any of them are...
My name is Kathy Boylan, and I'm from the Dorothy Day Catholic Worker in Washington, D.C. And a story from Hiroshima. A grocer escaped into the street. The appearance of people was, well, they all had skin blackened by burns. They had no hair because their hair was burned. And at a glance, you couldn't tell whether you were looking at them from in front or in back. They held their arms in front of them, and their skin, not only on their hands, but on their faces and bodies too, hung down. If there had been only 1 or 2 such people, perhaps I would not have had such a strong impression. But wherever I walked, I met these people. Many of them died along the road. I can still picture them in my mind, like walking ghosts. They didn't look like people of this world. They had a very special way of walking, very slowly. I, myself, was one of them. The peeled skin that hung from the faces and bodies of these severely injured survivors was skin that the thermal flash had instantly blistered and the blast wave had torn loose. A young woman. I heard a girl's voice clearly from behind a tree. "Help me, please." Her back was completely burned, and the skin peeled off and was hanging down from her hips. The rescue party brought my mother home. Her face was larger than usual. Her lips were badly swollen, and her eyes remained closed. The skin of both her hands was hanging loose, as if it were rubber gloves. The upper part of her body was badly burned.
Oh, what a long and challenging time. My name is Kathy Kelly. I'm a co-coordinator of Voices for Creative Nonviolence. And you know, what a long and challenging time it's been for the 7 defendants, I think especially of our 3 friends who've been imprisoned ever since they enacted their very, very brilliant witness. And, you know, when you think of one Trident submarine being the equivalent of 1,825 times the explosion over Hiroshima that we commemorate today. It's obscene. It's terribly hideous that the weapon makers have continued. You know, they don't miss a beat. There's proliferation all over the world, and this weapon making continues. And so it's really moving and wonderful in a way to see a community coming together here, and to know that on August 7th, when the Kings Bay Ploughshare 7 go into the courtroom, the same kind of gathering will be happening in Kansas City as people go to court. And out in Bangor, Maine, people were arrested protesting the Trident fleet on the west coast. So in a way, I think all around the world we can say that there is a community of faith in the possibility that we could liberate ourselves from these terrible, terrible weapons. But at the same time, we know that greed and fear are combining in ways that cause ongoing development of these many, many factories and stations where the weapons are developed and stored and used. So I hope that we'll be able to draw some greater support from this very area. You know, last year we walked from Savannah to Kings Bay, to this spot. And I must say that by the time we got down here, there was no room at the inn. Nobody wanted to give housing. I think they were very, very afraid. And it's interesting that this year, Teresa Grady was able to pull together 8 different households willing to house people. And apparently Sunday night, before we all gathered, the 4 of the defendants who are out on, with their leg irons, were able to give a presentation. And I know that the head of the Social Justice Committee at the Unitarian Universalist Church have been pretty anxious, you know, what's going to happen at this presentation. But later he emailed Roxanne, who had helped organize it, and he thanked her, and he said what a courageous and compelling group of people. So our role is to help get that voice out and link up with people all around the world and do our very, very best to liberate the world from the Trident.
I'm Brian Terrell. I live at a Catholic worker farm in Malloy, Iowa, and I'm a co-coordinator for Voices for Creative Nonviolence. I've been asked to read from some of the witnesses of the bombing at Hiroshima 74 years ago this morning. The blast wave, rocketing several hundred yards from the hypocenter at 2 miles per second, and then slowing to the speed of sound, 1,100 feet per second, threw up a vast cloud of smoke and dust. My body seemed all black. A Hiroshima physicist told Lifton, everything seemed dark, dark all over, and I thought, the world is ending. Yoko Ota, the writer, felt the same chill. I just could not understand why our surroundings had changed so greatly in one instant. I thought it might have been something which had nothing to do with the war, the collapse of the earth, which it is said would take place at the end of the world. Within the city, notes Hachia, who was severely injured, the sky looked as if it had been painted with light sumi, that's calligraphy ink. And the people had only seen a sharp, blinding flash of light. Well, outside the city, the sky was a beautiful golden yellow, and there had been a deafening roar of sound. Those who experienced the explosion within the city named it Pika, flash. And those who experienced it farther away named it Pika Dawn, flash boom. The houses fell as though they had been scythed. A 4th grade boy said this, when I opened my eyes after being blown at least 8 yards, it was as dark as though I had come up against a black painted fence. After that, as if thin paper were being peeled off, one piece at a time, it gradually began to grow brighter. The first thing my eyes lighted upon was the flat stretch of land with only dust clouds rising from it. Everything had crumbled away in that one moment and changed into streets of rubble, street after street of ruin. Hachia and his wife ran from their house just before it collapsed, and terror opened onto horror. The shortest path to the street lay through the house next door, so through the house we went, running, stumbling, falling, and running again until in headlong flight we tripped over something and fell sprawling into the street. Getting to my feet, I discovered I'd tripped over a man's head. Excuse me, please," I cried hysterically. A grocer escaped into the street. The appearance of the people was, well, they had all skin blackened by burns. They had no hair because their hair was burned, and at a glance you couldn't tell whether you were looking at them from the front or the back. They held up their arms in front of them, and the skin, not only their hands, but their faces and bodies too, hung down. If there had been only one or two such people, perhaps I would not have had such a strong impression, but wherever I walked, I met these people. Many of them died along the road, and I can still picture them in my mind like walking ghosts. They didn't look like people of this world. They had a special way of walking, very slowly. And I myself was one of them. The peeled skin that hung from the faces of those severely injured survivors was skin that a thermal flash had instantly blistered, and the blast wave had torn loose. A young woman said, "I heard a girl's voice clearly from behind a tree. 'Help me, please.' Her back was completely burned and the skin peeled off and was hanging down from her hips. The rescue party brought my mother home. Her face was larger than usual, her lips were badly swollen, and her eyes remained closed. The skin of both her hands was hanging loose as if it were rubber gloves. The upper part of her body was badly burned." I'm here partly because these horrors need to be remembered and witnessed to. We're at a time of nuclear buildup and a time of abrogating treaties and agreements that might have done something to fend this off. I'm also gathering here because in these horrible times that seem so hopeless, we really need to get together. We need to see each other. We need to hug each other and look each other in the eye, and we need to reassure one another that there is hope.
Thank you.
I'm Ellen Barfield from Baltimore. I've been challenging nuclear weapons for over 30 years. Got my start as an activist challenging the Pantex nuclear weapons plant outside Amarillo, Texas. Met my beloved husband there. Did a lot of good work with him. Missing him now, but the work goes on. The world is refurbishing and redesigning and racing again to get more nukes. Terribly wrong direction. It's so important that people gather and resist this horror. Remind people of what it really is, and that's what I'll be reading in a minute, what really happens when people, when neighborhoods, when communities are bombed with nuclear weapons. We have to say no. And I'm, of course, specifically here to support the Kingsway Ploughshares, the brave 7 who went in and posted a condemnation of the whole nuclear enterprise, put up crime scene tape, poured their own blood. These small, simple gestures, which to the world probably seem silly or crazy, but they're so important to point out the atrocity, to point out the demand we make, that we stop this, that we turn around. What I'm going to read is a passage about the physical effects, not even just on the people. At the same instant, birds ignited in midair. Mosquitoes and flies, squirrels, family pets crackled and were gone. The fireball flashed an enormous photograph of the city at the instant of its immolation, fixed on the mineral, vegetable, and animal surfaces of the city itself. A spiral ladder left its shadow in unburned paint on the surface of a steel storage tank. Leaves shielded reverse silhouettes on charred telephone poles. The black brushed calligraphy burned out of a rice paper name card posted on a school building door. The dark flowers burned out of a schoolgirl's light blouse. A human being left the memorial of his outline in unspalled granite on the steps of a bank. Another, pulling a handcart, projected a handcart and human-shaped surface of asphalt from boiling. Farther away, in the suburbs, the flash-induced dark, sunburn-like pigmentation sharply shadowed deep in human skin, streaking the shape of an exposed nose or ear or hand raised in gesture onto the faces and bodies of startled citizens. The mask of Hiroshima, Lebo and his colleagues came to call that pigmentation. They found it persisting unfaded 5 months after the event.
I'm Eric Johnson. I'm a member of the Presbyterian Peace Fellowship and part of the community at Oak Ridge Environmental Peace Alliance. For 15 years we've been gathering at the gates of the Y-12 nuclear weapon facility in Oak Ridge, the last full-scale nuclear weapon facility in the country. It's where they refurbish all the warheads in our U.S. arsenal. At 6 a.m. they begin their vigil on this day of remembrance and hope, and we're using their book that they compiled for that. And they go for 3 hours and they stop at 8:15. And so they read some of the names of those who were obliterated, incinerated in Hiroshima. Sayi Seito, Susumi Dekaksa, Kaori Shima, Katsunko Oribe, Sake Ito, Motohi Michael, Mikiko Yamako. Of the 76,000 buildings in Hiroshima, 70,000 were damaged or destroyed, 48 totally. It is no exaggeration to say, report the Japanese study, that the whole city was ruined instantaneously. Material losses alone equal the annual income of more than 1.1 million people. In Hiroshima, many major facilities, prefectural office, the city hall, fire department, police station, national railroad station, post offices, telegram and telephone offices, broadcasting station, and schools were totally demolished or burned. Streetcars, roads, and electricity, gas, water, sewage facilities were ruined beyond use. 18 emergency hospitals and 32 first aid clinics were destroyed. 90% of all medical personnel in the city were killed and disabled. May the God of justice have mercy upon us all.
My name is Gilberto Perez. I'm from Bainbridge Island, near the Bangor nuclear submarine base, largest base in the U.S. If it was a country, it'd be the largest country with nuclear weapons. So the small county of Kitsap County. So here we are in Georgia, praying that we don't use these awful things. And we pray and chant and do peace walks in the U.S., around the world, for peace. Do you need another question?
Well, your founder, your order was started in Japan.
In Japan in 1917. Basically, it's a small order, Nippon Zanmi Hoji, to abolish nuclear weapons. But we also do other activities supporting Native American issues. The Afro-American Selma Montgomery Walk here in Georgia, Native walks on the West Coast, across the country with the Dennis Banks, who passed away. A lot of work with Father Biggs in Tacoma, a Catholic worker, priest. So we've been doing that now for maybe 16 or 17 years on the West Coast, longer on the East Coast, Midwest. So I think we've been here since the early 60s doing peace actions. And we're an order who, not necessarily meditating in the temples, but being socially engaged with issues of America. I just heard something recently by Cornel West on the killings in El Paso and Ohio. And he talked about Brother Trump. And Brother Trump and these supremacists are as apple pie as America. But so is Martin Luther King. Apple pie is America. And our faith, the Christian faith, it's 7 generations. And we have love and solidarity, because we want to know which apple pie is going to win. And I'm sure that faith and prayer will win in creating peace in this world. Thank you.
Thank you.
What I'm seeing here today is called cosmic entanglement. We are all one in the spirit this lovely morning in Georgia.
Teresa?
Okay, Sister Young at Heart. So
Yes.
what are we doing here? Just quickly.
What are we doing here? We're going in to re-argue the case of the Religious Freedom and Restoration Act in the federal court in front of Judge Wood, who will be, if the motion is denied, and the motion is a request to drop the charges based on the Religious Freedom and Restoration Act right now. And that's the hope and desire under the magistrate Cheesebro, who we argued in front of in November and subsequently submitted more papers in December. He at least acknowledged that the defendants were successful in recognizing that their acts were of a religious nature, actual religious nature, and that in fact they were deeply held religious beliefs. And so today we're going back in because Magistrate Cheesebro denied the fact that the government was imposing, putting undue burden on the defendants, and we would like to propose that in fact the government does put an undue burden on all of us who are religious and believe that the law of God is to love one another and to uphold life, and that the mere existence of these weapons is a contradiction and a blasphemy to our faith, and therefore they must be addressed personally and with each other's bodies and symbolically with our religious traditions. And so the argument will continue on, and we'll hopefully see that Judge Wood, who we hear is quite bright and quite learned, that her brilliance will be able to understand the simpleness of the case that the defendants are wanting to put forward.
Thank you, Teresa Grady.
You're welcome.
So what are your comments coming?
It's very intense. I don't have
Very
much to say.
intense.
Very intense.
What do you remember? Just a little debrief.
I thought the judge listened really carefully to both sides. I thought she did a really good job of that. How she'll rule, I don't know.
My name is Paul Magno, and I'm part of the Kings Bay 7 Ploughshare Support Group. I live at Jonah House in Baltimore, and have been supporting these people since their prophetic action of April 4th, 2018.
So today is August 9th, and it's a remembrance of Nagasaki Day, 74 years ago
74,
today.
right.
The United States bombed Nagasaki 3 days after bombing Hiroshima. And so what are people doing here today?
Well, as people have all week, and in particularly great numbers on the 6th, which was the anniversary of Hiroshima's bombing, and today, maintaining a prayerful peace vigil at the Stimson Gates to the Kings Bay Navy base, which is home to a half a dozen Trident submarines, all loaded up with intercontinental ballistic nuclear missiles. And collectively, any one of these Tridents could bring down the human experiment and the planetary experiment in large measure. If they fired their volley, we wouldn't outlive that.
So, thank you, Paul. Is there anything else you want to say about why we're here or where we're going from here?
Well, I came for the sunshine.
And we've got plenty.
And we've had a community of as many as 100 people here this week from all over the country, including, God bless them, a number of people from this part of the country, which is a very conservative part of the country, and people, you know, take a risk just to stick their heads up and say, I'm for peace, but they're doing it. So it's been extraordinary. It's extraordinary to pack the courtroom the other day to the point where we had a couple dozen of us stuck outside because there wasn't enough space, and it's been extraordinary to pray and conspire and share food and share fasting and share this week together. And you're all invited to come back when the trial happens. The more the merrier.
Thanks, Paul.
All right.
Okay. Paki, my name is Rosie Davila. I am from Wilmore, Kentucky, and I'm 18 years old.
And you're here protesting with the Ploughshares at Kings Bay Trident Nuclear Submarine Base. How come?
Well, I learned about, it's a long story of how I learned about the Kings Bay Ploughshare 7, but I've been writing them ever since they were incarcerated, and they just became really good friends, and I was so moved by their action, and they are my heroes, and I think of them as like our 7 modern day Gandhis. And so it was just really important for me to come and support and help in any, you know, small way that I can. So that's why I'm here.
So I understand you're an illustrator, though.
I am.
So do you want to tell us what you've illustrated?
Sure. Well, I've illustrated 2 books. One is called A is for Alice, and that was written by a friend of mine, Rebecca Ragland, who is an Episcopalian priest. And then I also illustrated D is for Daniel, which is about Daniel Berrigan. And my mom, Kathy Davila, wrote that. And so those are the 2 books I've illustrated, and hopefully more will be coming soon.
So when you're not here at Kings Bay, then you're back in Kentucky. What are you doing there?
So actually, I'm going to be a college student this fall. I enter my first semester as a freshman at University of Kentucky in 2 weeks, so wish me luck.
We wish you the best luck, and thank you for what you've already done. And may your strength, your convictions continue.
Thank you, Paki.
I want to welcome all of you today. Thank you, people, for putting up with the visual logistics. I want to welcome all of you today. My name is Nancy O'Byrne, and I'm the coordinator for Pax Christi, Florida. And we have been part of this presence here every year for Hiroshima and Nagasaki since 1987. Now, I'll be honest with you, my husband and I haven't been there that the whole time. We've been here for 15 years, but Robert Randall has been here that whole time. And who else, Robert? Bob Cushing, Father Bob.
82.
Since 82, he predates the Metanoia community here and was in jail along with many of our dear friends. So, yes, and I just got a call from John Linehan and Martina, and they want to tell you thank you, and they are here in spirit, and I can feel John X's spirit, because if you know John X, he will be felt and he will be heard. Anyway, this is a time we always do after our signing, our posters and our leafleting. By the way, I had made 200 leaflets, and I think we only have about 25 left. So thank you all who participated in the leafleting, not only today, but this morning, and then at the courthouse. So thank you. So we always just have a reflection time. People will have an opportunity to come up and do a reflection, a prayer, a song, a hope, and I'm going to start us out with hope, because we all need hope, especially in these days and times. This was written by Pax Christi USA member Robert Muller, and it's called The New Genesis. You may have heard it, but it bears repeating. And God, oh, by the way, you have a part in this. Your response is, it is good. All right? When I point to you, that's your cue. It is good. And God saw that all nations of the earth, black and white, poor and rich, from north and south, from east and west, and of all creeds, were sending their emissaries to study together, to think together, and to care together for the world and all its people. And God said, Amen. And God saw that humans were loving the whole creation, the stars and the sun, the day and the night, the air and the oceans, the earth and the waters, the fishes and the fowl, the flowers and the herbs, and all their human sisters and brothers. And God said, it is good. Yes, he did. Yes, she did. And God saw that humans were suppressing hunger, disease, ignorance, and suffering all over the globe, providing each human person with a decent, conscious, and happy life, and reducing the greed, the power, and the wealth of the few. And God said, it is good. And God said that saw that humans were living in harmony with their planet and in peace with one another, wisely managing their resources, avoiding waste, curbing excesses, replacing hatred with love, greed with contentment, arrogance with humility, division with cooperation, and mistrust with understanding. And God said, it is good. And God saw that soldiers of peace were separating the combatants of quarreling nations, that differences were being resolved by negotiation and reason instead of arms, and that the leaders of nations were seeing each other, talking to each other, and joining their hearts, minds, souls, and strength for the benefit of all humanity and all creation. And God said, "It is good." And God saw that people were destroying their arms, bombs, missiles, warships, and warplanes, dismantling their bases and disbanding their armies. And God said, "It is good." And God saw humans changing their institutions, beliefs, politics, governments, and all human entities to be servants of God and of the people. And God saw them adopt as their supreme law, "You shall love God with all your heart, all your soul, all your mind, and all your strength. You shall love your neighbor as yourself, and there is no greater commandment than these." And God said, "It is good." It is good. It is good. Thank you. Now, I want to invite those who have a reflection, a prayer, a thought, to please come up, take the microphone so you can be heard. Yes.
Will you hold that?
Oh, surely.
I am reading the peace declaration. What direct?
Hold the mic right to it, there you go. Yeah.
I'm reading the peace declaration. From Mayor Ploughshare Action at a ceremony in Nagasaki this morning, marking the 74th anniversary of the atomic bombing of the city. It begins. Close your eyes. It begins. Close your eyes and listen. While thousands of arms and legs were torn off, intestines drooping out, maggots swarming in bodies, those still breathing searched for loved ones and cremated the dead they found. The smoke of burning corpses rose into the sky, and innocent blood stained the water of the Yarakami River, leaving only till Lord Scars the war finally came to an end. But my mother and my father are gone. My brothers and sisters will never return. People are weak and quick to forget. They repeat the same mistake again and again. But this one thing must never be forgotten. This one thing that must never be repeated under any circumstances whatsoever. This is a poem that was written by a woman exposed to the Nagasaki atomic bombing at 11:02 a.m. August the 9th, 1945. 17 years old, she lost her family and suffered serious injuries. The poem expresses her fervent belief that no one else in the world should ever have to experience that same tragedy. The atomic bombs were built by human hands and exploded over human heads. It follows that nuclear weapons can be eliminated by an act of human will, and that the source of that will is, without question, the mind of every human being. The present world situation involving nuclear weapons is extremely dangerous. The opinion that nuclear weapons are useful is once again gaining traction. The United States is developing smaller, more manageable nuclear weapons, and Russia has announced the development and the deployment of new nuclear weaponry. Moreover, the Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces, the INF Treaty that ended the Cold War race, is finally dissolution, just as the continuation of the Strategic Arms Reduction Treaty is in peril. The achievement of humankind and the result of our long-standing efforts to rid the world of nuclear weapons are collapsing, one after another, and the danger of a nuclear calamity is mounting. I end with the conclusion. My heartfelt thoughts go out to all the people who perished in the atomic bombing, and I declare Nagasaki's determination, along with Hiroshima, and people everywhere committed to peace, including the Kings Bay Ploughshare 7, a little editorial comment here, to strive relentlessly for the abolition of nuclear weapons and the realization of a lasting world peace. From the mayor of Nagasaki.
Thank you.
All right, we have another.
Hi, I'm Kathy Boylan from Dorothy Day Catholic Worker, and I hold this sign at the Pentagon every Monday morning to remind all of us that the United States always lies when they go to war. I remind the soldiers of the Gulf of Tonkin lie that led to the deaths of 58,000 American soldiers, millions of Vietnamese, to do what? To steal the oil, the tin, and the tungsten of the people of Vietnam. This is the current lie that has led to the deaths of millions of people, the imprisonment of people in Guantanamo, including the man who is called the mastermind of 9/11, who was waterboarded 182 times and held in a coffin-like box for weeks or months. These are the lies told by the empire. And I want to remind us all that every time we go to war, we risk, this is why it's so appropriate to hold this sign here at this Trident base, because every time we go to war, we risk the use of nuclear weapons and the destruction, the annihilation of all God's creation. Thank you very much.
Who's next?
I'm next. This is a Pete Seeger song that I'd like to bring up. It doesn't get played much because it's got the word God in it. But in this crew, I think we can sing it. And I'd like you to sing along. God's Counting on Me. How many people know that song? Great. 2, 3. So it's God. Your chorus will be God's counting on me. No, God's counting on you. Hoping we'll all pull through. Hoping we'll all pull through. Hoping we'll all pull through. Me and you. So that's going to be your part. Free. Hoping we'll all pull through. Hoping we'll all pull through. Hoping we'll all pull through. Me and you. I wish we had a guitar, but when we look and we see things are not as they should be, God's counting on me. God's counting on you. Once again, when we look and we see things are not as they should be, God's counting on me. God's counting on you. Hoping we'll all pull through. Hoping we'll all pull through. Hoping we'll all pull through. Me and you. When there are big problems to be solved, let's get everyone involved. God's counting on me. God's counting on you. When there's big problems to be solved, let's get everyone involved. God's counting on me. God's counting on you. Hoping we'll all pull through. Hoping we'll all pull through. Hoping we'll all pull through. Me and you. Don't give up. Don't give in. Working together, we all can win. God's counting on me. God's counting on you. Don't give up, don't give in. Working together, we all can win. God's counting on me. Oh, yeah. yeah, God's counting on you. Hoping we'll all pull through. Hoping we'll all pull through. Hoping we'll all pull through. Me and you. What we do now, you and me, will affect eternity. God's counting on me. God's counting on you. What we do, you and me, will affect eternity. God's counting on me. God's counting on you. Hoping we'll all come through. Hoping we'll all go through. Hoping we'll all pull through. Me and you. You know, Pete was with us, and I'm beginning to sound like I've already lost my voice. God bless. It's because I got interviewed by you. I've been talking for a straight 45 minutes. Beautiful. Just a few seconds. I know that people around the world are with us today, and you all know that, but the international campaign for the abolition of nuclear weapons has specifically sent their love and their presence with us today, the Kings Bay Ploughshares and their supporters. They are with us, and so I just send a shout out to all those around the world. Tim and Wallace and the Nuclear Band, the Physicians for Social Responsibility, the Veterans for Peace especially. What are some other groups we know are with us?
The Oak Ridge Environmental Peace Alliance.
The Environmental Peace Alliance.
Oak Ridge.
Oak Ridge, of course.
Nevada Desert Experience.
Nevada Desert Experience.
Fox Christi USA.
Fox Christi USA.
Code Pink.
South in Atlanta.
Nuclear Watch South in Atlanta. Ground Zero.
Tri-Valley Cares.
Code Pink and Tri-Valley Cares.
Western States Legal Foundation.
Wand.
War Resisters League.
War Resisters League.
Peace Education Center.
What?
Appalachian Peace Education Center.
Appalachian Peace and Education Center. Who forgot? Sherritt Brook Catholic Worker.
The Amsterdam Catholic Worker.
Amsterdam Catholic Worker. Who?
Ithaca.
Ithaca. I think all the Catholic workers are with us today. We know. So thank you. And Peace Farm. And Brian and a number of you, Steve knows well as well. We have our allies in Germany. We know that anywhere from 75 to 90% of the German citizens want our nuclear weapons out of Germany. The 20 that are in Buchel, several of us have been there at those gates. And we also want to give and they are with us. We also want to give a shout out to those in Scotland. What a strong anti-nuke. Janet Fenton of the Scottish CND sends her love to everyone and sent the video for you, the Kings Bay Ploughshare supporters. So, and they are with us today. So 58 out of 59 Scottish MPs want the nukes out of Scotland. That's where England keeps all its nukes, in Boslane, Scotland. 58 out of 59, you think that's a majority? Yeah. Okay, so God bless. The super majority. So God bless, I don't mean to shout, but I'm really honored. It's everyone here is such a special light, and I think we all feel that. So thank you for this opportunity and honor to say a few words. Before you.
And please, somebody come up next.
And please, somebody come up next, or I'm going to start playing harmonica.
Here comes Father Bob.
Here comes Father Bob.
All right.
When we were here in 1982, 83. Okay, all right. Can you hear me when I'm eating the thing?
Yeah.
Okay. Very good. Eat the mic. We sang a number of songs that I learned from the AA community, and one of them comes to mind again. And so there's a round to it. So you continue to do your part, and I'll sing the round against you, okay? It goes, return again, return again, return to the land of your soul. That's your part. Return again, return again, return to the land of your soul. Keep it going. Return again, return again, return to the land of your soul. Return to who you are, return to what you are. Return to where you are. Born and reborn again. Return again. Return again. Return to the land of your soul. Return to what you are. Return to where you are. Born and reborn again. Return again. Return again. Return to the land of your soul. Our prayer, O Creator God, is that we might be true to the earth from which we came. We are made of the elements of earth. 71% salt water, the rest minerals. We ask that we might be the earthlings true to our form by our Creator, and that we might preserve life and not threaten all life. Thank you, O Creator God, for calling us to this mission and to this day, that we can say yes to peace and reconciliation for all the land and all its peoples. And the people said,
Amen.
Thank you, Father.
Okay. Who else is next?
Sure. Hello, my name's Jim Haber. I came from San Francisco, and just to point out, if you point the microphone at you instead of speaking to the side, it's very little talk. I'm a Jewish Wiccan Catholic worker.
All right.
And tomorrow is Tisha B'Av. It's a fast day in the Jewish faith, commemorating the destruction of the first and second temples. And yet, Judaism lives on. What is cut down rises again like the phoenix, or like the grain in the fields at this beginning of the harvest time, as we entered August and Lamas, or Lunasad. It's a time of celebrating the beginning of harvest and that which will be cut down and that we count on rising again. In 2011, I had the honor to go representing Nevada Desert Experience, an interfaith anti-nuclear group I worked for in Las Vegas, to go to Hiroshima and Nagasaki for the commemorations of Hiroshima and Nagasaki days, their destruction. And it's striking to see how alive those places are today. What is cut down rises again. We need to keep hope alive. We need to not lose faith in this current time. And this gathering contributes to my not losing hope and faith. And I am grateful to have come here from across the country to be with my compatriots, my accomplices in this anti-nuclear sane work of ours. May this movement expand beyond our midst. Blessed be.
Amen. Amen. Thank you.
I'm Helen Barfield from Baltimore, from Veterans for Peace, from War Resisters League, from a whole lot of groups. I want to remember and honor the previous big risings against nuclear weapons, which sadly show how hard it is, but show what we have to do too. Back in the early 60s, there was a big rising, especially about the contamination. Women gathered their children's teeth to be tested for strontium-90. Women's Strike for Peace came along and demanded an end to atmospheric nuclear weapons testing, and they won that. Testing happened underground after that, so that those nasty elements weren't floating around and falling out of the air with the rain and getting into children's teeth. That was an improvement, obviously not nearly enough. Then in the 80s, it got really huge. There were the first, second and third special sessions at the United Nations in 82 and 88, if I remember correctly. There were peace communities all over the world. There were interchanges of people from the test site in the US and Semipalatinsk in Russia and Soviet Union still at that time. There was so much resistance, and a whole lot of treaties came out of that time, and we're seeing those treaties be dissolved now. And the Soviet Union fell, and a lot of it went away because a lot of people foolishly assumed that without two big empires or humongous nations competing with each other, it was no longer a problem, even though there were many tens of thousands of nukes. But out of those treaties, we took apart a lot of those nukes, although I gotta say, they could be put back together in a heartbeat. There were more than 20,000 plutonium pits stored at the Pantex plant outside Amarillo, Texas, in World War II bunkers, which were never designed for such a purpose, and I could go into great detail about why that's not a good idea, but there they sit, and could be reassembled should someone decide that needed to happen. So yes, we've taken apart the, thank goodness, largest percentage of our bombs, and the Soviets, the Russians have too, and to some extent the other countries with only a few hundred or less. But we have to, of course, abolish them, and hallelujah for the treaty. It's wonderful, as someone who started in anti-nuclear weapons work, to see it rising up again, and I have great hopes that this can get as big as the early 60s and the 80s did. It obviously has to. We have less and less choice as we approach more likely to have a nuclear war than any time in many, many years, and more likely to have a climate catastrophe. We have to, we know that. But I honor those who went before and did the wonderful work, and they won some things, not enough. So here we are again. God bless you all.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm Marianne Grady Flores, and I am really grateful to be here today on the anniversary of the Nagasaki. Is that good? Can you hear it? Point it to you. 1, 2? Point it to me, like that. Okay. So I am so grateful to Kathy Kelly for beginning the image of pulling us together here for the fast and the commemoration and the vigil here at the gates of the most omnicidal weapon system ever made by human beings. My sister Claire, our sister Claire, my sister Teresa's here. I am remembering Claire and the 7 defendants that can't stand here with us today because of their ankle monitors that don't allow them in Camden County here with us. I'd like to remember what Claire's thesis is of what Trident represents in the context of all weapons. So she says, if I hold a cocked gun to your head, am I not using the gun, even though I don't pull the trigger? Am I not forcing extortion? This is what Trident is. It represents the cocked gun to the head of the planet. Claire had done a Ploughshare's Action back 35 years ago up at the Griffiths Air Force Base, where there were cruise missiles being put on the bottom of the arms of the B-52 bombers that were used in Vietnam. This plane was refitted to carry these cruise missiles, first strike weapons, up over Canada's airspace twice a day, with Liz McAllister, who is sitting in jail right now. So Claire was young, she was in her 20s, and she is being held in the bowels of the public safety building that had no windows and TV going and smoke filled. She was lying on the ground with a cloth over her face just so she could breathe, no cigarette smoke, way down. And she thought, oh God, what if they pressed the button? Anyway, P.S.
She lived 35 years later. She's got 2 beautiful daughters, Leah and Rosie. She helped run our soup kitchen. It's loaves and fishes. We call it loads of dishes. Anyway, she did this for so many years, and she also participated in the anti-racism work within our own little Ithaca, upstate New York, where 2 of our black brothers were gunned down by our Ithaca police, Sean Greenwood and Keith Shumway. Claire worked diligently for 1.5 years to uncover the cover-up by the police on that. She was invited and went to Ferguson with other community members and family members. She was also invited with some of you that may be here today to go to Standing Rock to stand with the First Nation peoples in North Dakota, where water is life. The message is clear to us now. The bottom line is she was taking a neighbor to Attica for a visit, and while she sat in the parking lot looking at these monstrosities of this old institution at the walls, realized, it dawned on her, Trident is the cock gun. It is the enforcer of these white supremacist systems and capitalist systems that are killing people today and every day. It's not what if we press the button is being pressed every day. And those systems enforce and allow all of our U.S. interventionist wars, the 800 bases around the world, down to the police killings of black and brown brothers and sisters in our country and elsewhere. And she adamantly wants us to remember who are the first people in line of the sin of Trident and all nuclear weapons. It's the First Nation brothers and sisters, the indigenous peoples, where it's on their land where the mining happens, it's on their land where the testing happens, it's on their land where the dumping happens. So we need to stand and recognize whose stolen land are we standing on even today. I don't know the nation's name of whose land we are on right now, but there's a lot of history on every step that we take on Turtle Island. So, amen. I'm so grateful. Claire says that her action is invitational for us to think creatively. We invite you to go to the website, sign the petition, be a part of the treaty efforts, be a part of the divestment efforts, pull the plug on nuclear weapons. Amen. Amen.
We have a song. I also have a gift from our Auburn Unitarian Universalist Fellowship, where last Sunday we shared leaflets that Jim produced of the Ploughshare 7, and also information about the many close calls we've already had with nuclear weapons, to try to help people realize the danger of every single minute, the sword of Damocles hanging over our heads. There were lots of peace cranes that were passed out, but I don't have a lot here. I'm going to pass them around, and I just hope they'll all be taken and take it back and share it with someone or whatever. They're just a few, but here it goes. Okay, everybody, I hope everybody has one of those little, Eric?
We got it.
Pull out your little song sheet, Nagasaki Day. This happened several years ago. Sam Marshall, who I so regret is not with us today, had brought his RV and said I could stay, no fee. In fact, I think he paid for my gas down, to be here with the presence of the From Trident to Life campaign folks in Southern Life community, which was vibrant. We had quite a community of people throughout the Southeast. And so, I will sing this to you first, and then I invite you to join in as best you can. Ideally, we would have practiced as a choir. But I also want to add in here, I have to thank of Bruce Gagnon, Florida Coalition for Peace and Justice, who's now in Connecticut, and he was here promoting Keep Space for Peace. Keep Space for Peace, as he does all around the world. And so in the song, you will see Keep Space for Peace, and that space is capitalized. But the smaller one is Keep Space for Peace in our hearts. So that's sort of how the song goes. I'll sing it one time, and then we'll see what we can do the second time as the Spirit moves. May the wind blow through us.
Yeah.
It was Nagasaki Day. I was at Kings Bay, and I heard the cry of a morning dawn. No weaponry disarm our hearts. No weaponry disarm our hearts. No weaponry disarm our hearts. Here I am. Here I am. Here we are.
Thank you. You want me to bring this? Can I bring this to you?
No, I can stand up. Well, if I can stand up. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yo me llamo Gilberto Pérez. Bueno, muy bien. Our order is a Buddhist order from Japan, and of course the awful weapons used on 2 cities. And basically they had given up. Our founder monk started this order from a large St. Nichiren school and went to India to walk with Mahatma Gandhi in the salt walks. So that began the monks leaving the temple and being socially engaged in action.
Amen.
Amen. A woman. And so therefore he came to the UN in 1982 for the Non-Proliferation Treaty, and I think he passed away at 103. But he wrote some things about tranquil is my mind, and he wrote in one talk that in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God, and the Word is. He thought maybe Nam-myo Renge-kyo was the Word. We don't know what the word means. We don't know, but it is God. So I'll chant Nam-myo Renge-kyo for a few minutes, and we'll see what happens. Also, let me say that I love you all very much. Te quiero del corazón.
Igualmente.
De aquí. La paz es posible. Peace is possible. Amen.
Amen. La paz contigo.
Well.
Hello, everybody. First, I'd like to say thanks for the wonderful song. I'd like to say thanks for everyone who has spoken for the Namyo Rengekyo. A little closer. All right. Yeah. Well, so I just said thanks to everyone who has spoken and for the song and the Namyo Rengekyo. And thank you to everyone that has come out and that wants to participate this. And again, I said it yesterday at the Mass, but thank you for giving me the opportunity to see every one of you guys here doing this work. And at first, I felt like I didn't want to bring up or talk about what I will. I felt like I didn't want to take that space, and it felt a bit out of line perhaps, but it seems like too many things have aligned themselves this week for me to make me deny this as a cause as well. And I'll list what inspired me then to talk about it, I guess by chronological order, because it feels the easiest. First of all, well, we come out here and we talk about nuclear weapons, which in one moment could turn everyone's life into death. Across the planet, everywhere, even I live in a country where we do not have nuclear weapons, we would all get impacted. Everything would change. World destruction. And so that started it off, because from my perspective, where I sit and I look into my future, I have 21 years of life right now, and I look into when I would sit in the position of having lived as many years as many of you, and I can just say 30 more years into the future, 2050, I look personally at a world destruction of a different kind, but a world destruction nonetheless. And for people of my generation and younger, we find it hard to imagine a future, because we know we can read the UN's scientific committees, what they say to us in their statistics, in their research. They do not tell us that we have a future. They tell us that we will face incredible droughts, incredible food shortages, incredible political instability, and incredible shortages of fish in the sea. Chaos. 2050, 30 years from now, I'll have 51 years. And
people younger than me. My little sister, she has 9. And when we reach 2050, she'll have, what will that be? 39 years. And as many of you can relate to, that time may pass quicker, may pass slower. So, talking about world destruction, I came to think a lot about this issue now that we had gathered here this week. And just from that, I wouldn't talk about this. But then we started the fast. A communal gathering up to go outside of our personal comforts, to deny ourselves the meals that we get daily, that we crave, basing itself around food. The common theme then of what I want to talk about, because then Bill told me, Bill standing over here in the peace shirt, told me that it impacted him to hear me tell him about the fact that when I grow older, I have these issues to face that my parents may not. And hearing him tell me that last night, after watching the movie that Kathy brought to us, Cowspiracy, which has an interesting name, it can feel easy to make jokes about it, to underestimate it, to think that you've heard it before. But if you have not seen it, I recommend that you do. 51% of greenhouse gas emissions, the majority of drought resulting from the water usage in these areas of food production, specifically agricultural production. A lot of people do not talk about this. A lot of people do not want to talk about this because these truths feel uncomfortable. And I don't even want to look at this myself. And I bet that a lot of people think about issues like these as issues like the nuclear one, where if everyone realized what really went on, it could end today. We could abolish nuclear weapons. We could take them all out of production within a few years if everyone just realized. And I bet that in your struggle to abolish nuclear weapons, you've felt frustrated and hopeless time and time again that people do not know, that people do not care. And in a similar way that you would wish that other people would go outside of their comfort zones to look at what their country, the military-industrial complex, does to this country and others in their exploitation and oppression of their own people and the people of other worlds. If you would wish that they would step outside of their comfort zones to accept the uncomfortable truths that we have about nuclear weapons today, I wish, shamelessly so, that you also may take one step out of your comfort zone today and look at the position that you can take in regards to other issues that face the world today, other generations, everyone alive. May not be you that face these cataclysmic consequences, but people and the world will and do face these issues. If you can do so little, for some so much, as stop eating meat, then I beg that you try. And that you can take this opportunity of the fast to at least give it a shot. To look around in your groups, in your communities, who does what, on what fronts to stop climate change, to stop climate destruction, to stop world destruction of human habitats around the world, around the globe. And we have many issues to face. Jim brought up a wonderful movie, absolutely amazing last night as well, called Al-Helm, meaning the dream, about the struggle that Palestinians face every day against Israeli occupation and oppression. And we have issues like these across the globe, and I feel so grateful for all of you people here that you guys struggle on the issues that you care about, because a lot of people don't at all. And again, I don't want to tell anyone what to do, because I do a lot of things wrong myself. And if I had not seen and felt inspired by what I had seen here by you guys and the Kings Bay 7 Ploughshares, I would not say any of this to you today. Thank you for listening to me now, and thank you for coming out here. And have a blessed day.
Thank you for your courage.
The words of Richard Rohr, it's not either or, it's both and, right? Who else would like to share with us? We good?
If you don't mind.
Well, I'll just say thank you to Casper for sharing. I'm a vegan, I get it, so thank you. Okay. And I just want to say thank you to all of you. This has been a really blessed time for me. This has been very important. Many of you know there's been a long journey leading up to me being here, and I am just so grateful. And so thank you all.
Thank you, Rose.
All right, who's our logistics person? Right here.
Well, I'm not the only logistics person, but it is time to say a little bit about logistics, because as soon as we get through with that, I guess we'll have whatever our final closing is going to be and head up to our meal, at which time some of us will break our fast. Yay! And thanks again to Sarah for all the work she's done. I'm looking forward to finally getting to eat some of it, Sarah.
If you have food in your car, make sure you get it into the kitchen quickly so we can put it out on the counter.
If you didn't hear that, if you have any food in your car, get it into the kitchen right away so we can eat when we get up there. Okay, so here's what you need to know. If you don't already know where Crooked River State Park is, it's that way, north, almost at the very end of this road, and it'll be a right turn into the park. When you turn into the park, you're on the main road going into the park, and we're eating in shelter number 1, group shelter number 1, which is basically at the end of that road. As you head in and get towards the end of that road, you'll see the group shelter right in front of you. Piece of information: every car that parks in the park has to buy a $5 parking pass. So one of the things you might want to think about doing is carpooling. We don't necessarily have to take every car here that we have sitting here. We can leave some of them here and carpool up. I know you said you have room for 3.
I have room for 3, but what I'm thinking is I have a season park pass at the park, so my car can park for free. What if people went up and then drove their cars back, and I drove the drivers back? That would be an efficient way of, I could drive twice and take 6 cars drivers back. Does that seem...
The only issue with that is the amount of time it would take before everybody was there for the meal.
Well, I can take 3 or 4.
Because I know some of these people are going to be leaving pretty quickly to get to airports and things.
I can take 3 or 4 in my car.
Robert?
Yes, Mary Ann.
Right, we have a little bit of a tradition here to sing "Let There Be Peace on Earth" together. There's one part in there that I suggest we sing, with God as creator, family are we. Right. And that gets rid of the male gender.
Okay. Great. So let's form a circle.
Nothing but trouble.
Sorry, I forgot to mention. If we can join in the closing song, please.
Start it.
If you can grab a hand, grab one.
Now let's fix this flag. We don't have to hear.
Let there be peace on earth, and let it be.
Keep it up.
Let there be peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be. With God and earth, and we all are we. Let us walk with each other in perfect harmony. Let this begin with me. Let this be the moment now. With